My world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
I'm joined today by two long-standing fans of the program who will be telling us about an event that's taking place later in the next week. First of all, I'm going to introduce Sarah from South Dublin LGBT Staff Network. Welcome back again, Sarah.
Thanks very much, Mick. Thanks for having me.
And somebody who's been a long-standing friend of the programme and a great supporter, Martina Malone from Dublin City Council. So, Martina, welcome back again.
Thanks, Mick, and lovely to be here.
Yeah. Martina, I'm going to start off with yourself. Dublin City Council LGBTQ Staff Network, you were the first. How's it going now? Because at the time, it was a radical departure. So has it been widely accepted within the council and within the staff?
Well, it took a while, as you know, and as you quite rightly say, it took a while to get us up and running and to make our mark in the wider organisation, in the corporate body. Our main challenges, really, while we have huge support and fantastic support from the chief executive and some senior managers, our challenges have been all along with HR. We have when it came to giving us funding for banners for Pride or for having flags or those kind of events, there's never any problem in being supportive. But a lot of the challenges for us was when it came down to the nitty gritty and support gay parents having the same policies applicable to gay parents as were applicable to same-sex heterosexual or to heterosexual cis couples. It didn't happen, and it didn't happen in the easy way you would expect from an organisation that promotes itself as LGBT inclusive or as an equal opportunities employer. And we certainly have had issues in relation to acceptance and widely acceptance of our trans colleagues in the organisation. Now, having said that, from a wider perspective within the organisation, we would like to see ourselves, the LGBT network itself, becoming very much so the go-to group or body within the organisation in relation to LGBT equality and inclusion. And that is happening in a very piecemeal way. We have had calls from colleagues in the law department in relation to a member of the public who is a tenant in Dublin City Council owned housing, and they're coming to us rather than going to HR, you know what I mean? So that's kind of good. We got support from our communications people last year at Pride for the virtual Pride. It was offered and they came to us. We didn't have to go searching or seeking out them. So those kind of things are happening. But when it comes down to nitty gritty or amending policy, there's still very much, it's the top down. And it's somebody else's job, and that somebody else tells you how equal you can be. So there's still a little bit of work to be done there, and it's still a little bit of work that the LGBT network are very determined that we're going to do and continue to do, you know.
How is your relationship with the trade union movement? Because previously you would have, the trade union movement perhaps would have said, this is an area that we should have responsibility for. Are you operating in parallel, or is there any competition there between your network and the trade unions?
I think initially we were very much operating in parallel because we didn't want to. The big thing for us, very often it can be daunting if somebody thinks they're the only gay in a particular section within a particular department, and if something happens, their first port of call doesn't necessarily want to be the trade union, because then there's a perception then and a confrontation then with management. So we wanted to do it that we were taking an approach from a kind of a human rights approach, and a human rights approach that was an inclusive approach. So initially it was kind of parallel, and a bit like that, different personnel on different bodies, and the trade unions have come to us now and say, we would like your support on this, and vice versa. We've gone to them saying, can you support us on this? So we didn't initially, in the early stages of setting up the network, and as it's been growing and as we've been developing, we didn't want to be seen as a particularly as a body within the trade union movement, for the simple reason we didn't want it to be seen as a thing where we were putting people in a situation of confrontation with the management. We wanted to be working in partnership with HR.
Yeah.
So and it's working. I mean, it's a slow slog, but we are getting there, you know. So, but our support from the trade union is quite good. It has to be said.
Sarah, when I excuse me, when I went out and spoke to you guys out at the library, I was really impressed that the initiative of what you were taking, it was very customer oriented. At the time, you were if you like, you were the lead in the sense that it was local government who was taking the lead in this area, and less so in the community. Now, since then, our good friend Alan Edge has set up the South Dublin LGBTQ network. You've got to be proud of the fact that you essentially laid the foundation stone for what is now going to happen in the wider community as well. How well is it working out there? We've heard from Martina. How well is it working, certainly within the county council?
Yeah, I mean, look, Alan's done amazing work. Just when you're saying about coming out to the library years ago, it seems so long ago now. And Kieran, who I was with, and Kieran was a real big driving force behind the network as well, has left, unfortunately, since. So, like, it's been a bit of a journey. There's been setbacks. Certainly our network is in a lot more infancy than Martina's, and Martina has been absolutely incredible in terms of the support and just the guidance of what to do. The LG, and we have an amazing, I have to say as well, when Martina, you know, and she's saying about issues with HR and that, we have an incredible equality officer in South Dublin County Council, Selena Bonney, and she has been absolutely amazing. And when we talked to her about starting this network, she was so supportive and so enthusiastic, and has never failed to kind of really get involved. So in that sense, we've been so lucky. And in terms of the wider network in South Dublin, I mean, it is brilliant. Like the social inclusion network in the social inclusion department in the council, again, really got involved there, set up the steering committee, and we're hoping to do some things for Pride in that together. So it's been a journey, like, but it's been great to see the representation. And I said, we have had a lot of support from the council, and you know, we've flown the flag for TransPride the last couple of years, you know, between the launch of the network, the virtual Pride last year, marching for our first Pride back when we were still able to all see each other and actually march. So it has been great. I said, it is slow going. And as Martina is saying, you know, these things can be slow to start. Now, we have had new members and stuff join in the last year, and it's been brilliant. But it's just the challenges, particularly in the last year, has been keeping up that kind of communication, and it hasn't always been easy, it hasn't always been successful, but it's important to just keep on working at it.
Yeah. Well, I should point out, you are the only two local government staff networks in the certainly in the Dublin region, and as far as I am aware, in the entire country. So slow as it may be, at least give yourselves a pat on the back for the initiative so far. Have you had any objections out there at all? Have you run into any opposition, Sarah?
No, I say no, there hasn't been opposition as such, but certainly maybe getting people on board isn't always the easiest thing to do. As Martina was saying about, you know, the network wanting to be the kind of go-to for like LGBT issues and LGBTQI issues in the council. That's not always the case with us. And, you know, particularly at the start, it was working on not being bypassed. And, you know, things like that, not necessarily opposition, but just kind of a lack of acknowledgement maybe, or a lack of communication. And that's probably been like, certainly there hasn't been, I haven't come across any kind of outright challenges. In terms of trans issues, again, as Martina is saying, the same thing in Dublin City, like it's, you know, we haven't got a gender recognition policy as of yet. There's a lot of stuff that we have to work on. I think I think a lot of the issue sometimes is this sense that, you know, we have marriage equality now. And I think a lot of people thought, well, oh, we have that now, so things are fine. And people forget that actually trans rights aren't where they should be. Equality for same-sex parents aren't where they should be. So there's a lot that still has to be tackled.
Martina, I want to come to you because since we last spoke, particularly over the last 6 months, there's a whole mindset that has emerged. I mean, it's not that it wasn't there before, but it's starting to use language that on the surface of it, you know, sounds safe enough. But deep down, I think we both know that there is a very dangerous agenda. The expression that comes to mind straight away is gender critical. Now you think, isn't it okay for people to be gender critical? But basically we know that the hidden meaning behind gender critical is that they really want to, it's regressive in that sense of the word. They want to go back to a binary definition of gender. How do you feel about that? Now are you sensing that undercurrent?
Oh well, that would sum up Dublin City Council fairly well, I think, and particularly our interaction with HR, where I know Sarah mentioned that we have a trans policy, and the first thing I would say about that is the policy isn't everything; it's how you treat your colleagues is the main. You know, we should be treating our colleagues with dignity and respect. One of the things that we did, I'll get to the question in a second, Mick, but one of the things that we did, and we did find it beneficial, and we do it as a kind of a counter thing to the unofficial HR thing, where we have an equality office, we have a gender recognition policy that doesn't work, and we have this message to the wider corporate body is, oh well, we'll deal with the message to the wider corporate body is from HR is any issues in relation to trans issues goes to the equality office, and the message that's been sent out to the wider corporate body is, of course we're maintaining gender segregated facilities, of course we are maintaining you can have your opinion and it doesn't matter what you put up on our intranet. It's the same thing, that gender critical stuff, and we're not allowed. For example, there in November, and it was actually on Trans Day of Remembrance in 2019, a colleague put up a posting on our intranet site, which was quite derogatory and at best insensitive to trans colleagues, saying, and basically the message was people who have a conservative mindset and all of that kind of thing are afraid to have an opinion. And this was put up on the wider body, for the wider body to see. And when it was brought to the Equality Office's attention, this posting was taken down. 2 days later, the same person put the same posting back up. It was brought to the Equality Office's attention again, and it was taken down. And I asked the question, well, is this person going to be sent for diversity and inclusion training? And the answer I got was, no, he's entitled to his opinion. Well, I'm sorry. Well, he may be entitled to his opinion, but he's not entitled to put it up for everybody else to see. Not in an organisation that wants to see itself as LGBT friendly and LGBT inclusive. So we have had to kind of constantly challenge these very subtle, as you call them, gender critical, and we're not this thing where it's presented that the majority population are fearful for them. Do you know what I mean? And that we are somehow a threat to them. So we have to kind of constantly chip away at this, and it can have a very negative impact on your own well-being when because you're constantly battling very subtle negativity towards yourself. You know.
Sarah, can I come to you on this one? Because when I was out there in your library, I was really impressed about the fact that you had as a policy to include material that was primarily oriented towards an LGBTQ audience. Now, we know from the days of Thatcherism and the Tory governments in the late 80s, Clause 28, that was one of the first areas that they tried to tackle, was dissemination of ideas. Are you getting any, shall we say, pressure to change your content there? Or even to the extent of hiding some of it away?
No, I mean, like we say, all our libraries now in South Dublin would put up Pride flags, and we'll put up Pride displays of books every year for Pride. We all do it, of all material, you know, books for kids, books for adults, books for teenagers. And we've never had a problem doing that. Now, I mean, there was a relatively publicized incident involving a member of a political party, and I say political in inverted commas, whose name I'm not going to give any airtime to, who did come into a couple of our branches last year and, you know, verbally harassed our staff and took footage of our staff without permission, and put it up on Twitter like they were some sort of, you know, hero for the hetero masses. I don't know. That is the only pushback that certainly from my experience or from my knowledge, that we've ever gotten about having material. And then the irony being, a book that had been on the shelves for 4 or 5 years, hadn't been borrowed very much at all. And, you know, and then suddenly one person comes in and starts tweeting to all their followers, and it's just like, get several grips on yourself, you know. I mean, that sounds kind of flippant, like, but it's so frustrating. But I mean, that stands out so much. I mean, not just because of the aggression of it, and it wasn't just to do with trans material either. This person marched down to the county square where we have the Pride flag up, just the rainbow flag, and started talking about, and saw all the rainbow flags in Tala Library window, and started talking about how we're working to indoctrinate the children or whatever. And then this person, then just to further make it like hilarious, this person then a few weeks later was like, we won, the Pride flag is down at the end of Pride month. Do you know? And it's just like, what are you doing? But like, I can laugh. I mean, look, I can laugh about it and think and kind of make a bit of a joke about it, but it's not really a joke. It's become more insidious. Like, this person put it up on Twitter, and their followers, and they had a lot of followers, retweeted that and believed that. And I think what's scary is that we're seeing it becoming more and more brazen. And as you're saying, it's words, it's like, you know, gender critical, and this kind of playing it, you know, this kind of false attempt at playing a devil's advocate. Well, what if, and oh well, this situation could, and it's like, no, that's not how it works. And I think I said we're seeing more visibility in that, and we have to be more visibly against that as well.
Can I ask you both the same question? And I had an experience. I was up at the Dáil about 4 or 5 months ago. I was talking to a contact who I've got who's a TD, and as we were going past, there was this group of anti-vaxxers and anti-mask people outside. Now, I've been wearing a mask for over a year. I did it from the very beginning. And I got this, they were predominantly male, and they were hassling me about, why don't you take your mask off? You're a big sissy wearing your mask and all of that sort of thing. And I said, look, if you guys, if you don't want to wear a mask, good luck to you, but I'm wearing one, etc. And I got this really ugly remark saying, well, the only place that you should be wearing a mask is down the George. And I thought, what I'm seeing is a link between homophobia and anti-vaxxers and anti-masks. Are you sensing, either of you can answer this or both, are you sensing any of this, particularly since COVID has emerged? Martina.
I would say...
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I would say it's all kind of coming under the same umbrella. It's just like the way they've hijacked the flag. I mean, the tricolour now is starting to become synonymous with, danger, stay away from that general crowd of people. Do you know, like it's...
Yeah, bit like the Union Jack was for British nationalists.
Yeah, and it's like, no, we all belong under that flag. And like, I remember last year, like when a lot of this was happening, like myself and my partner, we flew our tricolour out a window, and we're like, we're not going to be, be afraid of, or, have this taken away from us when we all belong under it. Because I think a lot of that has fallen in under the same umbrella, under this thing that it's somehow, it's homophobic, it's anti-vaxxers, it's anti-immigrants, it's, anti-refugee, it's pro-direct division. It's all fallen under the same kind of thing, I think, anyway. And it's all dangerous ideology.
Martina, how do you feel about that?
I certainly agree. I think that there's that umbrella that Sarah mentioned. That there's a whole load of them. They're anti-vax, they're homophobic, they're transphobic, they're anti-refugee, they're anti-everything. And it's a very difficult one to know how to challenge, because yes, if you see something, I think it should be called out. I certainly agree with that. And sometimes, though, you can give them more ammunition in a way, because you can feed it, you know. I think we all saw the horrible things where Izzy Kamikaze got a belt on the head and was hugely insulted. And there's another bit of me, given that insidious stuff that Sarah and myself both mentioned earlier on there, where somebody is appearing to be on your side, but in actual fact is very subtly undermining you and is not treating you as an equal. That kind of stuff is going on. It's much more difficult to deal with in some ways, because you take years dialogue and trying to do what you can do. And it has an awful wear and tear on you. Whereas if you can see something very directly that's not okay, then you can see it and you can name it and you can challenge it more openly. And I think what probably would help in relation to that is a better anti-hatred legislation, or incitement to hatred legislation. That kind of stuff would probably help. Yeah. But I certainly think people in the public service have a duty to challenge that kind of thing. Yeah. You know, certainly, yeah. It is, it's getting worse, all right, Mick. Yeah.
Something that, particularly with what I would call the regressive feminist entities, I won't mention any of them, that are emerged over the last 6 months or so, they all seem to have as a basis a repeal of the Gender Recognition Act. And they're using they're citing the Irish Constitution, I think it's Article 41, about the role of women, and saying that the Gender Recognition Act is against the role of women, which is essentially saying, you know, you shouldn't be here now with me. You should be at home looking after your husband and in the house looking after your family and all of that. Now, that seems to me essentially repeal the 8th Part 2. How do you feel about that? Does that, is it dangerous to have that issue addressed? Because sooner or later, you get the impression somebody is going to make a constitutional challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's a dangerous thing to do. It's a very clever thing to do. It's subtly very clever, because it's people who there are, and I know some lesbians my age and probably older, I'm not sure, I don't want to be ageist about it, but it's a generational thing where women who have fought for women's rights in this country over the last 4 decades and have a history in their mind, I'm saying that in inverted commas, they have a history of women, and they don't see that trans women see themselves as also having a history as women, but their history as trans women, and that's where we're not understanding difference or gender difference and not tolerating it and not being open to learning about it and hearing people speak and express their opinions about it. And they can be very damaging in the way they go about it. I did hear something vaguely, it's a good while ago, about a year, maybe not quite a year ago, on one of these phone-in shows where a woman had a particular issue where women was taken out. It was something that the HSE document had published, and they had taken women out and had but had been more open for trans, something like that. I can't quite remember the detail of it. And in fact, the woman ringing in had a point, because it was negating women themselves. However, the answer to it wasn't to denigrate trans women. It was to make it both women and trans women to be more open and to be more inclusive. And I think that's the kind of, we need to keep that on song and maintain that the difference doesn't mean it's an exclusion of one or the other.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this one to you, and Martina, you feel free to answer it as well or respond to it. Something I have been arguing, and until I started getting called a paedophile and a whole range of things, I stopped arguing with these people. But what I was saying to particularly the regressive feminists is that enshrining rights for trans women does not undermine women's rights. How do you feel threatened? As a woman, do you feel threatened or in any way negated by having rights for trans women?
No. Like, that's the simple answer, is no. We're all fighting for the same space, and trans women are women. That's really, there just really isn't another argument to that. People want to put forward another argument. They want to say differently. My experiences as a cisgendered woman who was born biologically female doesn't make me any more of a woman as far as I'm concerned. As a trans woman who's gone through that journey to become the woman that she has always been. So I think there is this use of this idea, and I'm saying this as, I would say not like a young generation, but a little bit younger, who wouldn't have had to go through the same, maybe not as long as you think, Mick, who wouldn't have had to go through the challenges, we'd say, as my lesbian partners, or lesbian partners, do you hear me? As women before me, a generation before me who were out in the streets to be recognized and to be decriminalized. And I fully accept that hasn't been, I have grown up with the privilege that has given me, is that fight that's gone before me. But in a way, I find it even more surprising then that those same women aren't fighting for trans women to be recognized in the same way, in the same way. Like and it's really interesting, because I think that a lot of times when we talk about trans issues and we talk about this, the argument, and we're saying about like J.K. Rowling and Graham Linehan and all these TERFs, like there is no want of a better word. The talk is always about trans women. Because women are seen to have to give up. As women, we've had to fight for spaces, and trans women now have to fight for spaces. But we seem to have less of this conversation around trans men. And I think that's a very interesting thing too, because feminism is the thing that's under the microscope largely when we talk about we talk about TERFs and that, but not the male spaces in the same way. And that, I think that's a whole conversation that needs to be had as well. But like, to answer, I know I went a very circuitous way there, but no, as a woman, I don't feel in any way I'm there for my trans sisters. Like, we have to be all fighting for space for them too, because they deserve it.
Do you find that, Martina, I'm going to come to you on this one. Do you find that the argument, and I find it is essentially dishonest, that it's saying that basically trans women are spending their time hanging around changing rooms and hanging around public bathrooms, just basically waiting to rape children? And it's it's a very emotive argument, but it's to me it's also lies. I cannot think of one instance where anybody was abused by a trans woman in a bathroom or in a changing room in Ireland. But yet it seems to get traction.
Yes, it does get traction, and if you're going to use an argument that is presents itself as being somehow protecting children, then it is going to get traction, and it will feed into something. Yes, I agree with you; it's a completely dishonest argument, and it comes from people who are very often have a conservative mindset, and quite frankly, I think it's very sexist. Actually, it's funny now, just listening to Sarah and yourself there. I know one of the things that we wanted corrected, and it's centering around the use of facilities, toilet facilities and shower facilities in the workplace. And we had a problem with one of the lines. We had a problem with it before it went being launched, the gender recognition policy in Dublin City Council. Tenny didn't approve it. We didn't stand over it, the LGBT committee, but it still went ahead anyway. Was that it was basically in relation to the use of facilities. We've had almost a 2-year battle with the management and HR, saying that we want that taken out, and it's undermining to trans colleagues in particular, and to us as a wider LGBT family. And it's interesting, both the males, cisgendered heterosexual males, their argument is if they change it to the way we wanted, basically that, and this is what we're saying at our induction, I'll come back to that in a second, what they're saying is that they're concerned about, and it's insulting actually, that they're concerned that they will then have to deal with claims of sexual harassment. Why? I mean, I don't know why sexual harassment. It's a bit like yourself, gay men are put in the same brackets as pedophiles, and now trans women are being put in the same brackets as a sexual predator, basically. Now, the only thing I can say in our favour is that we have a new head of HR at the moment, and she herself agrees that was a particularly appalling approach to take. But it was the cisgendered heterosexual males. So that they're coming from that society, that they have a particular viewpoint, it's a conservative viewpoint, and they want to keep a very binary, traditional male and female roles. And that is the issue, really.
Sarah, I'm going to come to you with the nub of the issue that we came here to talk about today, which is you're having a Transgender Day of Recognition, and you're going to be holding an online workshop about it. Now, you'll notice I'm wearing my Tenny T-shirt today to show solidarity. Tell us about the event and tell us what's going to be happening at it, because I gather you'll be chairing it this time.
Yeah, so it's on the 31st of March, and we're going to be having from 11 to 1 p.m. and it's following on from we had a Pride at Work event back in October, and again ourselves and Dublin City, Martina chaired the last one, and it was just it's just about kind of being trans at work. It's about the challenges of being trans at work. It's also about a celebration of trans people and having trans voices kind of front and center. So we have three speakers who are members of the trans community, and they're going to just talk about their experiences, their challenges, how we can be better allies, really, and just a kind of celebration of what it is to be trans at work, a celebration of those kind of coming out experiences and those working experiences as well. So we're really looking forward to it. We have a good number of people who have signed up for it so far, and like all our speakers are great, and they all bring something different to the table and like different experiences. So it'll be really good, a really good event.
Yeah, Martina, I know from going to the launch of your transgender policy, you've got trans people working at Dublin City Council. What contribution will Dublin City Council be making to this event?
Well, two of our out trans colleagues will be speaking at it. Sarah, excellent, as she said, will be chairing it. Yeah, it is. And I think it's great because the two trans colleagues came out differently, which I think should reflect, and I hope will reflect, the diversity of the trans umbrella. So in other words, you may have somebody who will present and identifies as trans and binary, and somebody who will be on a spectrum and consider themselves non-binary, and just their journeys coming to themselves. And as Sarah said, I think it's a good thing to be visible, to be out and proud, to say, yes, we can, we're in charge of our own destinies, we're in charge of who we are, we'll decide who we are and how equal we want to be. And I think, and I would hope that the purpose of this, some of it, and certainly I know Sarah will be good at hosting this and will be driving this message, and I know she has that support from her Equality Office and her senior management, but it's how to make our employers and our organisations more open to trans people, and to attract people when we're recruiting who are trans, because I know that's a big difficulty. Well, it's a big, in fact, I didn't realize it until Winter Pride this year, that we're gay people, LGBT people are down the pecking order. We have a higher rate of unemployment. We earn less, apparently. So there was a number of those things that I was kind of shocked about. I wasn't surprised when I heard it about trans people, that they find it very difficult to be employed as people who are trans. So I think as public sector bodies and as local government people, we should be representing the citizens in our administrative areas, and some of our citizens are trans, and they should be able to feel that they're participating as full and equal citizens in their society. So, and to do part of doing that is being able to be employed and to earn an income. So we want to promote ourselves, but promote ourselves and mean it and be it as people who are, as organisations that are attractive to LGBT people for working in. You know, so I would hope that we're driving ourselves towards that. Bit of a battle now, Mick, but we're getting there.
Okay. So I'm going to leave the last word to yourself. It's as you said, it's the 31st of March. That's next Wednesday. How can people register to attend? It's an online event, as you say, but how can people register so that they can attend?
Yeah, it is. It's an online event. You can register through Eventbrite. If you just actually Google TransPride Out at Work or South Dublin County Council, Dublin City Council, you'll find it on Eventbrite. And if you register through there, you'll get the link to the event. And yeah, we'd love to see people there. So it will be a great. We'll have some good discussion, and our speakers are great, and it'll be brilliant to hear their stories and their journeys.
Yeah, and roughly speaking, it lasts about 2 hours. Roughly speaking. Look, it's been terrific talking to you, Martina, and you, Sarah. we just hope that our friends out there at Fingal and Dunleary Rackdown, they'll soon get the message and start their own LGBTQI support network. So look, stay safe, stay fabulous, and we will talk again soon. Take care.
Thanks very much, Mick. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
My world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am.